you know it has to be 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So are our peer-reviewed articles and references including that as 1,000 words, or is it separate?
The 1,000 words is only the written part. So I'll pull up this example writing assignment. Basically what I do when I get your paper is I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start here. And I'm gonna stop here. And then I'll be able to see how many words it is end up right here. That's what I'm going by. So I won't count the cover page and I won't count any of this. So if you want to check yourself when you're writing, just do what I did. You know, you can select it and there'll be two numbers. The first number is the amount that you selected and the end number is the total. So you don't want to look at the total because that's counting the references, the cover page and stuff. You want to look at the front number for your word count.
So we do have to have a cover page.
I would like for you to, yeah. You can look at this one, how it's done, if you want to get an idea of. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Sometimes I get cover pages with flowers and colors. I'm totally cool with black and white. I actually prefer black and white. Less is more. Like, don't, you know, as long as it's black and white, it's clean, it's professional. Everything you do, you submit, should look professional. So think of it as something that you're turning into your boss. And your boss probably doesn't care about flowers and colors and purple font. Black and white, make sure it's clean, looks professional. So you don't have to create some fancy cover page, just a plain, simple one, just like the example one. Any other questions? I'm sure you guys have lots of questions, so this is your opportunity to ask.
Another question.
Yeah.
For the case study, do you want us to include the questions?
That would be helpful to me. Some people.
You said like paragraphs for each one question.
Yeah, some people do it as like a paper. That makes it harder for me to sometimes focus in on if you actually answered the question.
So put the question right.
So my preferred style would be list the question and then answer it. Then the next one, list the question, then answer it, rather than kind of trying to make it into a paper. Because then I find myself having to go back to the questions to make sure that you answer the question. So yeah, just list the question above each response, and that's totally fine. Yeah.
Peer articles will have to be in the
case study?
And
the writing
assignment.
Yeah. So that's why I said on the first day, if you are looking up articles and you're saving them, you can use those same articles if you want in your case studies if they're relevant to the topic. You can just reuse the same ones you've been doing for your discussion board. Hopefully that'll cut down on some of the time and the work that you have to do finding other ones. As long as they're relevant and as long as they're between 2008 and 2013, I'm totally okay with you reusing ones that you've already used before in your papers or case studies. Any other questions? Any questions about discussion board? Or, yeah.
What do the case study consist of?
They're from your book. They're all from your book. And I try to pick ones that are relevant to the things that we've been going over. So that's basically, they're pulled straight from your book. They're different kind of scenarios. Kind of like case studies are kind of like what would you do kind of assignments.
So it's like a question. What's the difference between the case study and the discussion?
Not much, because in either situation, there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer. I don't care what your answer is. I just want you to prove it. Your answer may be totally different from hers, which is completely fine. There isn't a grade book that I'm looking in for the right answer that I'm going to compare your answer to the book. Whatever you come up with is fine, but I just want to see that you understand what you said and that you have a reason behind your opinion. A lot of people think that with the case studies there is a right answer and there's not. It's really whatever you want it to be as long as it makes sense to me and to you, as long as you can prove that it makes sense. And that's why you'll want to pull in those peer review articles so that it supports what your opinion is. Yeah.
Okay, another question. You responded to my discussion where you said I had to italicize. Which part do I italicize?
Can we use it as an example or no?
Yeah, while we're on that, did we put, you
All right.
put all discussion boards down after, when you put the next one up?
Yeah. That helps for those people that try to creep in and try to do it late.
You must have pulled it down right after I did it last night then.
Each discussion board will close at 11:59 p.m. and that's according to Blackboard time. So if your clock is fast or whatever, like I'm going by what Blackboard is. So it's important not to wait until the last minute because if your clock is off from what the Blackboard clock is, then you'll run into that problem and it'll be closed down. Here. Because that's the title of the journal.
Oh, so
Oh, that has
at
to
the
be
end, the
titled.
titles have to be the title.
Not the title, the title of the article, I'm assuming was Ethical Leadership, a Review and Future Directions. That's fine. APA says that the title of the journal, whatever journal you got it from, that should be italicized.
Oh.
Oh.
And I noticed some of hers is bolded too. When I went back and looked at mine after I posted it,
Yeah.
some of mine was bolded even though I went up into the discussion board and changed it and unbolded it.
Yeah, sometimes the font is a little strange.
Yeah, I kept
Does
trying to go
that
back and
matter?
put it all the same.
I mean, I want your post to look as clean and consistent as possible. So I'm hoping not to see different kind of fonts. All the fonts should be the same. Nothing should be bolded.
Well, I try to change it up on discussion board.
Yeah, I know it's kind of crazy sometimes, but even if you look here, like
Yeah,
her
it
fonts are different.
It wouldn't change.
So what I recommend is doing your post in Word first for more reasons than one. Because sometimes Blackboard has issues and it shuts down or you accidentally press the wrong button and it's gone. So I recommend doing it in Word first and then just copy the whole thing over to the text box. Some people did an attachment. I prefer you just type it or paste it right into the text box
Okay.
because it makes it easier for other people to see your post and they don't have to open it up. They can just quickly respond. It also makes it easier for me when it's time to do the grading. Again, I can just see it and I don't have to open it.
Okay.
But that's my suggestion. Type it in Word first and then just transfer it over. That way you have it saved and if anything happens in Blackboard, you have a backup. In case Blackboard shuts down or something, you have it, you can just resubmit it. So does that make sense about yeah. Does anybody else have any questions about discussion board? Overall, you guys did pretty good. I'll be completely honest with you. You did better than my last semester's class first week. So definitely kudos to you all. You did pretty good overall as a class. Any other questions? Case studies, discussion boards. I'll always try to ask you guys if you have questions at the beginning of class, and if they don't take too long, I'll try to answer them. So if throughout the week or, from now until Thursday, if you're doing something, you have questions, bring them to class, and I'll try to answer them at the beginning of the class. So no more questions? We're actually going to talk today about healthcare management, then we're going to get into our lecture. I know everybody learns different, so I'm not expecting everybody to take notes. I'm not going to require you to take notes. That's totally up to you. If there's something that I think is really, really important, I may say write it down. But other than that, I'm not the type of instructor to make you take notes or check for the people taking notes. I just want you to participate. So other than that, I don't care how you take notes or how you choose to listen to the lecture. All right, so we're covering chapter 1 today. There may be some days that we cover more than one chapter. If one chapter is really short, I may combine more than one chapter together. The way I like to run this course is Tuesdays, we will always have lecture. Some Thursdays we may have lectures, some Thursdays we may do in-class assignments. I'll try to prepare you or tell you what to be prepared for if we're doing an in-class assignment on Thursdays so that you come prepared. And that's to kind of just give you something different to do so that you're not just coming in here every day and having to listen to a lecture. I got good feedback from my last semester on the in-class assignments, so I'm carrying them over to this semester, and hopefully it'll kind of bring you some real life scenarios that you can, combine with what you're learning from the book. But today we're doing a lecture. So, our first question to you all is, how do you define management? Like, what is management to you guys?
Boss, supervisor, director.
Okay, boss, supervisor, director. Authority. Leader.
Person to help keep things organized.
Keep things organized, okay. Anybody else?
To implement procedures.
Implement procedures, definitely important in healthcare. Anybody else?
Good ethics.
Ethics?
Yeah.
I'm glad you included that one. You gotta have some kind of ethics and values.
Follow up.
Follow up, important.
Motivator.
All good suggestions. We're gonna watch a video, and we'll talk more about management after the video. right. What do you think about the video? You can tell me if it was bad.
It was actually pretty cool.
Anybody, anything stand out to anybody?
Fast.
Yeah,
It's fast-paced.
the
Yeah.
cell phone. Yeah, the cell phone.
Cell phones.
More than the people in Australia.
Anything else stand out?
More people are on
Crazy.
Facebook and use email.
Yeah, social media.
That's true.
And people that surf the web
At work.
tend to really
More
be
productive.
9% more productive.
Anything else?
It seems like now are coming up that more people, they're losing more people than what they're gaining, because it was showing about the discrimination and also about being overworked and stuff like that. And then the people retiring soon, so.
More jobs are moving towards home-based
Now it
or
becomes.
telling
Right.
what's the word for that? Telemarketing? No,
Yeah.
it's not
Or they go
telemarketing,
on to-
telenetworking.
Yeah,
Telenetworking.
Everybody's, becoming more mobile now.
more mobile.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the big things about this video is just telling you how, as a manager, these are all things you have to think about. Things you have to be able to, when you're managing people, think about how we're more mobile and how workforce may be decreasing. These are all things you have to consider when you're managing, right? How to cater to a certain population, whether it be baby boomers or millennials. So I thought it was a pretty cool video. So I took the time to show it to you
Do
guys.
you have these uploaded online?
I'm sorry?
Do you have these uploaded to Blackboard?
Um,
No.
yes, I have some of them. I don't have all of them. I'm not sure if this is one of them. But I'll make sure, I'll check after class to make sure this is one of them, and that's up for you to take a look at. And I got this from YouTube, so you can always get it there too. But I'll make sure the link's up. So I asked you guys about what management was. We looked at a video, and now we'll talk about how the book defines management. And these are the key terms that they use to define management: planning, organizing, staffing, controlling, directing, and decision making. Planning is number one for a reason. Planning has to be first. Can anybody tell me why you think planning should be first?
Because if you didn't have a plan, then you have chaos.
Right. Without a plan, like what are you gonna? Everybody's gonna be running around just kind of doing crazy stuff. So the plan has to be first, and then obviously after you have the plan in place, you have to have some organization in play to make sure that that while we have a plan, that it's run correctly and it's run in an organized fashion. Staffing relates to what it says. Getting your employees, whether that may require hiring more or letting some go, kind of regulating who's working and when they're working. Controlling, and we talked about this in my last class also. Controlling has a lot to do with enforcement, corrective action, making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and if they're not, what are you as a manager doing about it to make sure that it's corrected? Directing has to do with leading, delegating, assigning tasks, making sure that you're assigning the right task to the right person, and decision making. Very important as a manager, especially in healthcare, because who's our number one customer? Patient, right?
Patients.
So we're dealing with lives. And so it's very important that as a manager, you are able to have key skills in decision making. So we talked about the components, but what skills are needed to be successful? Not to just be a manager, but a successful manager. So according to the book, they say that conceptual, technical, and interpersonal are the 3 skills needed. Conceptual deals with decision making, what we just talked about. Being able to problem solve and analyze, and being able to fix issues or foresee issues before they arise. So it does a lot with your mental capabilities, whereas technical deals more with the skills that you have, meaning a technical skill could be Excel, being proficient in Excel, or a technical skill could be, if you're a nurse manager, actually providing the nursing skills that you need for that patient. So technical deals a lot with your expertise, your knowledge, your skills that you need to do the job. And interpersonal might be the most important one.
I think so.
You think so? Tell us why.
Because you gotta know how to interact and be diverse with different people on different levels.
Exactly.
So you gotta know how to handle if somebody's just a firm, straightforward person and not be offended by how they come across to you, but know how to be tactful to say it back to them in a way that everybody's on an even tone level.
Right. And you know, from the video, we saw that right now we have people from several different generations all working together.
Mm-hmm.
So as a manager, most likely you're going to be managing people, you know, in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, and so on. And you do have to be able to be tactful and be able to manage people from different genders and different ethnic backgrounds, different ages. And so it's key to have those interpersonal skills so that you're able to lead effectively and be able to build rapport with your employees and your staff. So there's different types of management positions. You have horizontal, vertical, and matrix. Does anybody know what a horizontal management position might be?
Is it like level? Like
Flat? Yeah. Can you give me an example of a horizontal management position?
Administrator.
That's going to be more vertical. And
What did you
say?
say?
I said administrator. So I would think that would be-
Barbershop,
Why barbershop?
because it's very limited employees. They do the same thing every day. Simple, I mean, it's.
That could be one.
Same, most of the time the same people coming in, the same type of service is needed.
May not necessarily be someone specifically
Like-
in charge, because everybody's kind of in charge of their own
like
customers.
retail. Retail.
Yeah, because Foot Locker's like this.
So vertical, as you said, would be more as an example of a hospital who has an administrator. You have, you know, supervisor level, then a manager level, then president. So it's up and down is how the leadership goes. Does anybody know what Matrix? I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen the movie The Matrix, but do you know what Matrix management is?
Like
Set
corporation.
sections.
It deals with cross-departmental. So, a matrix manager may have people from different departments reporting to them. So if you're in dietary, if you're in nursing, if you're in imaging, a matrix manager would be someone that all of you all report to. A matrix could also be used in teams. If you have teams of people from different areas and they have a team leader, that can be seen as a matrix position, management position also.
So you said the horizontal is like a barber shop or?
I'll take that as a good analogy. It's a very flat organization. Doesn't have a lot of different levels.
What would you say would be more horizontal, I mean, in your opinion?
If you look at a department, within a specific department, you could have horizontal. If you take like a nursing department, You might have some horizontal management in there.
Labor and delivery, or is that what you're talking about, like labor and delivery, med surg?
Any one of those, any nursing department. Within a nursing department, you may have several managers of that department, rather than just having a supervisor or manager and somebody above them. You may have a department where there's 3 managers and that's it. That's more of a horizontal level. Rather than vertical would be something where there's different levels. You have a supervisor, a manager, senior manager, etc. If you think in terms of the names, a horizontal management would be just a line. Nobody's really reporting up to anybody. Everybody, is on that same level. Whereas vertical would be an up and down line. So you have somebody at the bottom reporting to somebody up. And then matrix will look something like this. You have somebody here up. Well, it's not working, but with a matrix, you have one person. You may have kind of like a spider, like people coming out, and being like how it would look as a matrix. Any other questions about that? Tri-level management focus. As a manager, you're pretty much managing 3 things. You're obviously managing yourself. You gotta make sure you're on point, and that because other people are watching you. So you have to first manage yourself and make sure that you're doing the things you need to do as a manager. Next, you're managing a team or a department. So you're overseeing people within your team or within your department. They're looking up to you, they report to you. Then, depending on your level, you may also be managing an organization. You may be all the way at the top. So you may be managing that nursing home or that assisted living facility or that dialysis clinic. So there's typically 3 levels. And you always have to keep that in mind, because let's say you're managing these 2, but you forget to manage that one, then what's going to happen? Maybe some breakdowns, or let's say you're managing these 2, but you forget to manage the whole organization as a whole. Bad things could happen. So we saw the video, saw how I was talking about lawsuits and people leaving, retiring. It's very important that managers not just recruit, but also develop and keep their employees. And these are some suggestions as to how you do that. Number 1 is training. Training is very important because it's kind of like the first impression for that new employee coming in. And so if you don't start them out right with good training, it kind of doesn't give them a good foundation to build on. And training is where you are making clear the expectations. You're teaching them about the company and what their values are and what their mission is. So training is key. Next, you have leadership development. As a manager, it's very important that you just don't do your job, which is managing every day. You should also be trying to develop other people, bring them along. You want to make sure that your employees aren't in the same place they were when they started with you. You should be able to see some growth. And so that's leadership development. Feedback. Anybody ever worked for a boss that they just didn't like? Hand went up quick. Tell us about it.
Well,
You don't have to say the name of the company or the boss. Just give us a generic example.
well, she was kind of racist in a way. And then at first she started from the bottom. And then when the higher person got fired, they moved her up or whatever. And then all the people that gave her problems, she fired them or whatever. And then she just took the she just took the authority to a whole new level. Like she just thought, she let it get to her basically. And then it caused her to like go down because ever since then she's been having problems. Like she'll go off, like offline and start crying and stuff like that. But she wonder why nobody don't like her because when she got the position, like she just thought she was everything.
Did you guys have the opportunity to give feedback? No? Do you think that would have helped the situation?
Probably, maybe.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody been in a situation where they did have the opportunity to give feedback? You? Tell us about it.
I was in the military.
Okay.
And they did reviews every so often to see how you were performing as an employee and what you need to do, improve on your skills, whatever training, you know, how you were doing your job. And you, at the end of the review, you could speak with your manager, whoever's in charge of you, about what they could do to help you do your job better.
You feel like that was helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
I work for a company where we have meetings once, like every 3 months at the end of the month to like do the same thing, tell us about the company overall, how we're doing and stuff. And then at the end, everybody's allowed to say what's on their mind, if they think improvements should be made. And we all do this, and everything still stays the same. Like,
So nothing
it
changes?
Nothing changed. So we feel like now when we have a meeting, we might as well not say anything because it still stays the same. If you tell a manager about their stuff, then they get offended.
Right.
And then it's hard on you when you go to work because then they take it out on you.
Does the fact that nothing changes, does that still make you feel good that you had the opportunity to give the feedback or no?
No.
Because
I feel like a waste of my
waste of time. Okay. Well, regardless, you should always give your employees the opportunity to give some feedback. I think you said that in your example that the question was asked, what can we do to make you do your job? I think that's a great question. That way, you're showing them that you are concerned about them and how they can improve, and also giving them the opportunity to give some feedback to them if there's any changes they need to make. Conduct rounds, office visits. How many of you all have worked in healthcare or are working in healthcare right now? Anybody?
I have work.
Have you had an opportunity to see your manager come around and make rounds? And how does it make you feel?
I was fine. I worked at the VA as a ward secretary.
Okay.
And the director of nursing would come up periodically to check on her, what you call it, down level or whatever, to make sure all the departments and the nurses and everybody had their station put together, how they treating the clients or the patients, and how they interacting with the family members as well. So I was impressed with that.
It made it visible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And somebody else had their hand raised, I think. No? I think it's very important for you to make sure that the people that report to you see you. And you're not just that person that's always in the office with the door closed. You're out, you're talking to them, you're being personal, you're building relationships. It's very important to conduct rounds and do visits. And succession planning. Does anybody know what that is? Succession planning is basically the act of you planning for someone to come up behind you.
Okay.
A lot of times, CEOs and presidents will do this. They'll find one person or several people in the organization and kind of just take them under their wings and groom them to prepare them to be the next manager or president or CEO. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the leadership development. There's going to be people in your department or your company that just shine. They shine bright like a diamond, right? And you'll know it. You'll know it. And those are going to be probably the people that you want to consider for succession planning, because you're not going to be there forever. Just like they're growing and developing, you as a manager are probably going to grow and develop, and you're going to go up into a different position or a different organization. And you want to be able to help other people develop and come up behind you and take your position. All right, so managing performance. Everybody has a job, everybody has a task, but how do you manage it, right? You want to make sure that you emphasize efficiency and quality. Can somebody tell me why you think it's important to emphasize those things? Thinking in terms of healthcare.
The efficiency part, I would think would be like doing your job or performing your skills to make sure it's done properly, especially, I don't know, say you're administrating medicine or you're taking care of a patient or basically just going around monitoring something, at least to know what you're looking for and stuff like that.
All right. Anybody else? In healthcare, again, we're dealing with lives. So you need to be as efficient as possible. You need to make sure that you're attending to the patient as quickly as you can. You're taking care of the things you need to take care of so that they're getting the best care. And you're not just, fiddling around and get into it when you get to it. And then quality, we don't just want to take care of the patients. We want to make sure that they're having quality care provided to them. We want to make sure that they're satisfied when they leave the hospital or wherever or healthcare organization they may be at. How else can you manage performance? Highlight the people that are doing stuff right. If there's somebody that's going above and beyond, give them credit. Make sure that they know that they're appreciated and that you see them working hard. You see them staying later, coming in earlier, putting in extra effort to make sure things get done. That's the way you keep people motivated and engaged, and you retain them. You keep them so that they don't go somewhere else.
And I think that is one of the least things done in today's
Yeah.
workforce.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. You want to set reasonable and appropriate goals and targets. Reasonable. Important. You don't want to tell somebody to do something and it's just ridiculous to the point that they just give up and they just don't do it at all. You want to make sure that when you're setting goals that it's reasonable, it's achievable. It's not something that's so high up here that they don't feel like they'll ever reach it. It also needs to be appropriate. If you are managing someone and your goal for them is to do a task that you know they don't have the skills to do, you kind of set them up for failure because it's not appropriate. So you want to make sure that it's also appropriate, and that in addition to the goals, that the targets are reasonable and appropriate as well. You don't want to tell someone to, if I were to tell you guys to have your writing assignment done by next week, is that reasonable? Probably not, right? We just started school, right? Probably need more time than next week, right? Would it be appropriate? Probably not, because we probably won't have covered everything that you're going to write about in your writing assignment. So you need to make sure that the goals and the targets are reasonable and appropriate. Utilize benchmarks and organization comparisons. Everybody know what benchmarks are? Something to compare to.
Like last year to this year, goal review.
Could be last year to this year. It could also be someone else or something else. I'm sure that McDonald's looks at Burger King and Wendy's as a benchmark to see how they're doing, or to see what level they're on, if they're doing better or worse than them. Just like I use example from McDonald's, hospitals or whatever type of healthcare organization you're in should also have some type of benchmarks and organization comparisons to make sure that they're not underperforming. A lot of times you don't necessarily know how well you're doing unless you see how someone else is. You could think you're doing totally fine. You could think your 75% is okay until you find out that everybody else made a 90, right? Then you're like, well, so I didn't do so well after all. So it's definitely important to use benchmarks and comparisons to manage your performance. Management and policy. Sounds boring, right? Management and policy. But it's very important. If you consider all the recent changes with the Obamacare and the Affordable Health Care Act. If you aren't kept abreast of that stuff, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. So it's important to not only know what's going on in your organization, but you gotta know what's going on outside of the organization too, whether it be down the street, whether it be in the entire United States, whether it be in the state of North Carolina. Like, you have to be aware of everything that's going on, because it may directly affect your organization. It may not affect it tomorrow, but it may affect it next month or next year. So you have to be aware of that stuff. So why it's good to stay up on current trends, which is another reason why we read and we do peer review articles, is because you have to know what's going on outside of the four corners of your organization. It's better to be aware of it ahead of time than to catch knowledge of it when it's too late. So I got one more quick video for you guys, and then we'll be done for the day. Alright, I show this video because as healthcare managers, we always have to remember what's our number one reason for doing what we do. It's for patients. It's for, we're trying to keep people alive. Again, we're dealing with lives, and you know, healthcare is special because it's not business, you know, where you're dealing with numbers or other companies. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with somebody's mom, somebody's grandmother, somebody's father. So it's always important in any management decision that you're making is to remember why you're doing it and who it's for. And I think if you keep that in mind, it'll help direct how you make certain decisions and how you problem solve. So if nobody else has any other questions, we are done for today.
So when do we make appointments to come and see?
For the visit,
Yes.
you can make an appointment